I'd like to invite now Naomi Hogan.
Chair, I represent the Australasian Centre for Corporate Responsibility, ACCR. We work with asset owners and managers seeking to understand and manage investment risks relating to the energy transition over coming decades. I have two questions with respect to your recent Energy Security Scenarios report. In the scenario designed to explore how the world meets the goals of the Paris Agreement, you chart oil supply dropping steeply from the early 2030s, with low-cost OPEC producers gaining significant market share. This is also a view shared by IEA scenarios. Your report says for the Sky 2050 scenario, having been burnt in the past by overinvesting, only to lose out when prices fall, companies prefer to generate cash for their investors rather than invest in additional production capacity. At what point would Shell, as a higher cost producer, consider what your own energy securities report suggests and return cash to shareholders and investors over investing in additional oil production capacity? And my second question, your Energy Security Scenarios report demonstrates a clear understanding of climate science, the diminishing carbon budget, and the impacts of global warming, including low-lying nations going underwater. Your report also notes that the climate-related events witnessed as the planet warms will lead to increasing societal activism. In this context, do you see Shell's recent statements, alongside significant ongoing oil and gas exploration outlays, leading to growing backlash directed to Shell? And how are you actively managing risks associated with further societal activism targeting Shell, including new calls for financial reparations?
Okay. Thank you, Naomi. Of course, from my previous role, I know the ACCR very well. I think the first thing I would point out is that our production has been falling, and our returns to shareholders have been rising. Quite generously so. 35% of our cash from operations was returned to shareholders last year. So I think in some respects we're already meeting what you're asking us to do going forward. I think some of the other comments you make are related to obviously looking at some of the Shell scenarios, where we do expect that without greater change on the customer side to pull through a lot of the things that Shell are ready to provide of a lower carbon future, that inevitably there will be a sudden backlash, and some of the things that you've heard about and read in our scenarios will therefore give us the possibility for, not a nice way, but of actually selling more low carbon activities. And that's what I meant in my speech about things being lumpy. It can either be a technology development or it can be a social development. And of course we're ready for that. That's why we're doing the work we're doing in research. We're working so hard, in investing in many of the alternatives, and have done. And as I think as Wales said, our investment last year was almost double what it was the previous year in some of those low carbon alternatives. I wasn't able to take notes on all your questions, so I'm going to sort of call it for reinforcements now and ask if Will would like to add anything to some of the things you've said.
Thank you, Sir Andrew. Naomi, thank you for the question. And specifically, maybe the angle to touch on is your question around risk and how we manage risk and how we see it going forward. I think firstly, to your point around activism, indeed we mentioned that in the scenarios, and I think today is a demonstration of that earlier in the meeting. As society gets more and more frustrated by inaction, I think you're going to see more of this. What we are heavily focused on at the moment is what we can do to support governments, to support our customers, and of course ourselves invest in lower carbon solutions, with the recognition that we alone will not be able to make the transition happen, but we can be a great catalyst for the transition. And so as that frustration boils over, we hope that we will be able to see the right policies, the right measures, and we are starting to see that, by the way. If I compare to where we were 5 years ago, elements like the Inflation Reduction Act in the US is encouraging a significant amount of capital to move to the States. Similarly, we're seeing moves in Europe. So there is a lot of positive momentum that is happening that will allow companies like ourselves to invest your capital in a sustainable and in a profitable way as well. As we think about the broader risk profile, of course, we look at it from a global perspective. It is fair to say that the same AGM sitting in a place like Asia or in South America would have a very different focus, which is let's make sure that we provide energy to those who need it today, who have been starved of energy, including oil and gas, for a long, long time to come. So we're finding that balance that satisfies the wide range of demands on energy, and hopefully through our strategy supply the oil and gas the world needs today, as well as the low carbon solutions that the world needs urgently. Thank you.
Sorry, just to follow up, Wael, your reference there to other countries globally, does that mean that you're hoping to grow market share in those economies in order to make up for lowering demand elsewhere, or?
No, it doesn't. We are looking at how we can meet the demand that multiple countries, including here, for example, take the UK, where if there is less development in the North Sea, we will need to make sure that we are delivering energy to the UK as we did in the most difficult period last year, where we delivered record LNG. We processed 20% of the gas that kept the lights on in the UK. We supported the businesses as they were trying to keep running through these difficult times. We've just invested in another project called Pierce that will deliver around 10% of the UK's gas needs. So we will continue to invest where the opportunities are available, and we will continue to look at making sure the flows of electrons and molecules get to those who need it around the world, without necessarily choosing one location versus the next.
I think we need to cut it there. I mean, we've got lots of questions,
Thank you,
but I appreciate your comments and your input.